A Hyannis man drowns at Joshua's Pond in Osterville, and we have details about plans for the renovation of the JFK Memorial in Hyannis. On this episode of Barnstable Today, it's Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mannel. Rescue crews from the Hyannis and Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills fire departments spent nearly an hour last night searching for a missing swimmer in Joshua's Pond. The man was found beneath the surface of the water at around 8:40 last night. That's according to Deputy Chief of Police Matthew Sonnabend.
Unfortunately, last night about 7:30, a couple went down to, a man and a woman went down to Joshua's Pond, and as they were setting up, they noticed that there were two small children playing, and they appeared to be unattended. So the man went up and asked the children, are you okay? Where's your parents? Why aren't you here? And the little girl, she was about 4, I guess, told them that their father had gone swimming and he hadn't come back yet. So the man became concerned. Obviously, he called the police. We got down there, talked to them, and we notified other resources right away. We called for the fire department for their dive team, and we got our drone down there and officer and canines to start searching the area and checking around, but the man's car was there. So we were able to identify the man, and unfortunately, just outside the swimming area, after about 30 to 45 minutes of searching, a dive team did find the man submerged just outside the roped-in area of Joshua's Pond. They were not able to revive him. They did take him to the hospital. All efforts were made, but unfortunately, he had succumbed to the injuries received while drowning. We don't know the exact cause of the drowning yet. That's still obviously under investigation. It's a little early yet, but unfortunately, it was a tragedy last night. But something that we all got to consider, regardless of how old you are, how experienced you may feel. Sometimes, going swimming alone, at night can be a dangerous proposition for anybody.
Absolutely.
You really need to exercise caution. And, I'm just grateful we don't have more tragedies like this throughout the summer, but we always do have a few. So people really need to be mindful, and just be careful out there.
And the victim was identified as 36-year-old Hyannis resident Jorge Arias. Friends of Arias are raising money to help his family through the website GoFundMe. Town officials are planning to restore the 50-year-old JFK Memorial in Hyannis. Sherry Ruane, a consultant with Weston and Sampson, presented plans for the project during a public meeting last night.
So here's the masonry wall, and as we have noted, a couple of these panels are starting to actually pull away from the wall. So we learned from Mr. Lanza, the original contractor, that these were pinned into a concrete basically setting bed vertically, and that those brass pins are probably starting to fail. And there was not flashing across the top, so stormwater most likely seeped behind these, and through freeze and thaw, these panels have started to pull away. So our intention would be to fully remove this, completely restore that backing, and secure those panels again, and potentially to create a barrier up top to avoid moisture from creeping in behind. This plaza has actually lasted remarkably well, and we learned why from the original contractor, and that's because underneath this concrete, these concrete terrace blocks that were poured individually, there's an 8-inch reinforced concrete slab, which is industrial grade, could be under an airport runway. So it's incredibly well stabilized. In between these panels, which you can see in this close-up, that's have started to wear, were redwood wood slats that went in between each and every concrete panel. So the wood has started to decay. That has started to allow moisture to get in under some of these panels. And so in an effort to stabilize this plaza, the town has continued to coat it with sort of an epoxy resin. So what that's done is it's stabilized the surface and it's prohibited spalling. but there's still some differential settlement. And also what it's done is it takes away the contrast of that frame. So now instead of there being a visible grid across the whole terrace, it's one monolithic color, and that changes the experience fairly substantially. The fountain, we learned originally did not have a fence. There is an inscription around the coping, and this fountain fixture is actually more contemporary. The original one was intended to be more like the eternal flame, and this is definitely different than that. Here's that coping with the inscription in it, and you can see some of this is also starting to settle and crack, and definitely it's time for some repair. This is the vault that shows the mechanical systems for the fountain, and it's basically been modified through the course of the years to almost be like a mini residential pool. So there are much more contemporary systems that are now available that would allow this system to run more efficiently. And also the system is in a vault that's right over here, right in the middle of the terrace. So as you walk around and step on it, there's a pretty loud clunk. So here's an image of the memorial, the hedge, the benches, and that plaza pavement. And at the end, I'd invite you to come up and take a look at some images on this front table of when it was first built, which will show you a very different aesthetic, because these yew bushes that exist when they were planted were very small. And the variety that was chosen has continued to grow and been shorn, but it has started to create actually a physical and visual barrier between people and the monument. So as we consider what's possible here, and a couple of things we had talked about, we obviously want handicap accessibility, we want ease of maintenance, we want to create a contemplative space that is appropriate for the memorial. And we also want to really improve visitor experience and maybe cause people to linger a bit longer. So as we look at this, we thought, what happens if you take the fence away from the fountain? And I know folks are concerned that people will be falling in the fountain, but fountains exist all over without people necessarily falling in them. However, it's possible that this construction could be altered so that it's not as deep as it is. It's a pretty deep well right now, so that could be shallowed significantly. And also reconsideration of this particular spray to be more eternal flame-like, which was the original design intent. This is the eternal flame, which, as you can see, is quite different than that fixture. So as part of considering this, here's a view from further back, this space, when we were submitting the proposal, we just asked the question, and it's really more as fodder to get everyone thinking, what could this be? And talking with the original contractor was fascinating because he worked directly with the landscape architect that had designed it. And we heard he was a little bit grumpy, but we also heard that what they got out of it was that his intention was, in fact, to have people be still, have a moment of reflection with the sound of the water and the view of the memorial, and actually even the view from the memorial looking back out to the ocean. So what happens if you took the fence away, created more substantial benches, potentially with inscriptions on them that tells the story, and edited the fountain so that it represented more of the eternal flame? It starts to potentially create a space that's more welcoming, where folks would spend a bit more time, and offer an opportunity to provide some interpretive signage about this place, so people would walk around and read and understand what it was all about.
The cost of the restoration project has yet to be determined. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with Finance Director Mark Milne. We'll chat with Ryan Castle, the Executive Director of the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.